Hello, everyone. This is Jessica Garcia with Brainstormingwomen. Happy to be here today with Dr. Susan Perkins with Pfeiffer Institute Reach, a marriage and family therapy clinic that I strongly advocate for because they offer their services to people across the income segments, meaning if you don't have insurance, they have a sliding scale. And so I think it's a great place to go and a great option for those of us that might feel like there's something that we can benefit from therapy. So with that, Susan, let's talk a little bit about what you do.
The topic of the day.
Yeah.
We decided to tackle a really serious topic because as we were talking together just about what we do in both of our services, we recognized a similar need, some similar struggles that our clients are facing.
Yeah.
And that has to do with domestic violence. So we're going to be serious today and talk about a real topic in a respectful but also hopefully very informative way. The first thing that we talked about was just what is domestic violence and how can people recognize domestic violence in comparison to, are you just being with someone who's very selfish or not being able to stand up for themselves in relationships. The key to domestic violence or interpersonal or interpartner violence, as it's often called, the key there is that one person is forcing their will on another person against that person's choice. Now, they might end up agreeing to it, but it still feels coercive and out of more. They're giving more than that person would want to give. It's crossing a boundary that they're really not okay with.
So it can be insidious in that it starts at little and then it progresses and you don't even realize it.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that I think is very deceptive or almost I don't know if tricky is quite the right word, but kind of dangerous about domestic violence is that it often starts with something very small, not physical or a physical assault kind of thing at all. It's just a small coerciveness, a small disregard for something that's important to the other person, and then grows over time. And we all want to be unselfish. We all want to be giving. We want to compromise. These are good things in relationships. When it crosses over into that is something that I'm not actually okay with, and I'm feeling coerced and forced into doing it anyway.
It's not always violence.
No.
Physical violence, I guess.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So let me talk a little bit about the different types of interpersonal violence.
Good idea.
This can happen in a wide variety of applications. So I'm going to toss them out there, and then I'd like to talk a little bit more about the financial application.
Okay.
It was just such a good example.
Okay.
So we often think of interpartner violence as physical violence. So hitting, pushing, slapping, pulling hair, tugging, all of those sorts of things, all the way from kind of a mild, almost you can joke it off, to somebody's going to the hospital because they're in serious physical danger. But physical violence is only one way that a person can be coercive or force their opinions or desires on another. Physical violence, there's definitely financial violence. We'll go into that more in a minute. Making threats toward either of violence or of relational harm. So threatening to break things that belong to that person that are precious, threatening to hurt that person's children or animals is another form of violence. Psychological violence or emotional abuse involves things like saying very demeaning things to the other person, calling them names, cutting down who they are as a person. Sexual violence can happen in a variety of coercive ways, both smaller or growing to physical violence being involved in that. Religious violence can happen in a couple ways. One, by forcing a person to believe or say that they adhere to a belief system that they don't. But the other aspect of that can be using a person's beliefs as the threat or the trigger for getting that person to do what they don't want to do. So something like, many religions talk about the role of men and women, or the role of husbands and wives. And when one person uses that to coerce the other person into doing something they're not okay with.
Knowing that person will do it because of their faith.
Yes. So if you really believe this, then you'll want to be a good wife.
I see.
Or, good husbands, I see this guy across the street and he is what our religion would call a good husband because he does this, this, and this.
I see. Okay. All right. Interesting.
It can be very painful because it really cuts to the identity of who a person is.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about the financial aspect that you touched on. Because when I talk to my clients, sometimes the access to information, just the access is limited. And so to me, that is shocking. But would you call that some measure of, I don't know if it's abuse, it's control. What is that?
It can certainly be controlling or taking over a part of a person's life from them either against their will or without that person really standing up or feeling like it's okay to stand up for themselves.
Because sometimes it's the role you play. One is the provider, the other one takes care of the household, for example, and kids. And so sometimes it's a role you just fall into, but it can be, I think, dangerous when you don't know the information.
Absolutely.
And so it becomes such a norm that when you do ask for it, it may seem out of place.
That's a good point.
Right?
That's a good point, yeah. So there's a difference between this is a role that I really value, that I want to bring to our relationship, and I'm glad I can support our family in this way, and no, this is my territory, and you are not to know anything about it. There's a big difference there. Let me use myself as an example.
Okay.
Largely because as we started working together, it helped me realize ways that I need to be more assertive and kind of in charge of my own life. Yeah. So we moved to North Carolina in August. And through that process, changing banks and developing all new bill systems for all of the new things, I had no idea what our bills were and was so grateful for my husband for taking care of all of those things. But there was a point he was going on a work trip where I thought, I have no idea what our new account information is. How would I even take care of things if something happened on this trip?
Yeah, survival.
It wasn't, I didn't get there because I was being abused or cut out of my own life. I got there just by being busy and being probably a little, I don't know, lazy might be a good, just busy, just distracted by other responsibilities.
And maybe it's not your strength and you're not interested because you're trusting your husband.
It is not at all.
I'm not saying it's not your strength.
No, it's not. You can say that. Yeah. But when I asked, he was busy and he kind of just said, okay, I'll get to that. I'll make you a list and I'll get to that in the next couple of days. And I reminded him, but there was a little bit of a, wait, do you think I'm doing something wrong? Are you criticizing me? But then I just explained that we have no idea what's going to happen on this trip, how things are going to go. And I need to be responsible for taking care of life. And then he understood and he very willingly put the information together for me. And now I have access to it.
Very good. So it's communication.
Very much.
But it's also, knowing boundaries and understanding them and being willing to step outside of them.
And I'll tell you, it's much easier for me to just say, if you do it, I don't even want to know. But part of me being at a point where I can live an assertive life and I can stand up for myself and not let someone else slip into that mode of being coercive, even unintentionally. Part of that is me being assertive and taking care of myself and knowing my own information and setting those boundaries, saying I am an adult and this is something that I need to be able to take care of in my own life.
And I do think what you said is so important, that what if something happened to him? You do need to know this information, whether you like it or not.
Right.
It's very, very important. And so back to the, so I guess it could be a fuzzy line, right? Is I guess where we're headed with this a little bit, and that just because your husband or your partner could be the wife. I mean, the roles are not, they can, yes. That doesn't mean that it's abuse or anything, right? It just means it's just the way it is, right? So what points should one be concerned at certain levels of when not just when you're uncomfortable, but I've had people say, well, should I call the police?
Oh, wow. So if somebody asked me, should I call the police? I'm probably going to say, if you're asking that question, you're probably at a point where you either need to call the police or you need an escape plan so that you can get out and protect yourself in some way, whatever that looks like for you. That if they're asking that question, they've slipped farther down that line than is healthy.
Yeah, and it's a physical possibly thing, because I would imagine, I guess it's the fear, physical fear. Okay, well, what else?
Let me talk a little. I think you brought up a really good question that, yes, there's just normal roles, but when does it start to slip into abuse? So let's talk a little bit about warning signs.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to talk, my students laugh at me when they hear me say this over and over and over. I'm going to talk from the head and from the gut. Because people are different, and sometimes we need information, and sometimes we need to tune into our own experience and our instincts. So from an information perspective, what your head triggers need to be are things like one person having control of all of the checkbooks now, I'm old school, right? All of the online accounts, all of the debit cards, all of the credit cards, they're all in one person's name. Or even if they're in the other person's name, one person is the one who pays all the bills. Everything goes through that person. Control of asking for passwords and usernames leads to a brick wall and resistance. That's a warning sign. Not allowing access to any sort of financial, any sort of money access that is not controlled
or living
overseen.
Yes, exactly. Allowing a certain limit. That's all you get.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not the limit that's the problem. It's this is what I'm telling you you're able to do, and you can only spend money on these things. Asking for receipts for everything, but then really not for budgeting and accounting purposes, but saying things like, well, who did you go to coffee with? How did you do that? Why did you spend $4 instead of $3? Could you have gotten a plain coffee instead of a latte? Like those sorts of things are coercive and controlling and can lead to crossing boundaries and a person feeling like they don't have choices in their own life. There's a difference between responsible decisions and control. So those are some of the head things. Some other things are questioning the person's decisions. So saying, I don't even know if I can trust you with money anymore. Again, there's a point where that can be legitimate, but when that is the main message and it's, I don't know if I can trust you, so I have to take control and now you can't have any, versus, so let's make these decisions together. And let's come up with something that's going to work for both of us.
Because I would think those are red flags to other things that are going on, possibly, right?
These are very often themes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So financial, but that you wouldn't call the police for anything financial. What I was referring to as more a physical concern. But yes, absolutely, the financial piece of this can have a detriment effect over your life in the long term. And that's the importance of being vigilant, really. And I don't know if vigilant is the right word, but just the awareness and knowing, to your point, if something happens, where is the information that I need?
So let me hit a couple gut things. A couple gut things to pay attention to are if you spend money on something that wasn't agreed to beforehand, and then you're scared. thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in so much trouble for this. He or she is going to be so angry. Okay, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to explain this? So that fear, that kind of manipulation, how do I get sneaky?
So hiding in the closet.
Yes, hiding in the closet is
not you, but your goods that you bought.
Yes.
Okay.
Hiding that in the closet.
Yes.
That's a danger zone.
Oh, wow.
That's a danger zone. It's a signal that that you're concerned about someone's reaction. A couple other kind of gut feelings are just feeling really bad about yourself, questioning your own judgment when you haven't questioned your own judgment before, or other people in your life are not, feeling inadequate, feeling like the other person is better than you or smarter than you, and you really have to rely on that person because you're inadequate otherwise.
Okay.
Those are bad signs. Those are bad signs. Feeling worried, anxious, getting that oh my gosh, my partner's coming home soon. If they see this or if they ask me these questions, they're going to be so angry, and that kind of anxious worry.
So what do you do? Address it.
Well, I think the first thing to do, so let me tell a couple. In that moment, the first thing to do is to just have a really serious conversation with yourself. And say, okay, take a deep breath. What's going on with me? Do I need to step up and be more responsible? Or am I genuinely feeling coerced? Am I feeling controlled? Am I giving in past boundaries that I'm not okay with crossing?
Because it could be that you, in fact, are exceeding your budget, and you shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
That's,
And, being a responsible adult and holding yourself accountable is really tough sometimes, but a very important basis for healthy relationships.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. But then let me use the financial as an example. One of the most important things you can do is know your own financial situation. Have access to your account information, know what's coming in, where it's coming in from, where it's going to, what that big picture looks like. One of the main reasons that people don't leave abusive relationships sooner than they do, and why they struggle to stay away, is lack of resources. And a lot of that just has to do with not knowing what the resources are and not knowing how to access those. Also, that financial cutoff and relational cutoff from outside support systems is one of the strongest indicators that this relationship is very, very unhealthy. Because a healthy relationship is going to be supportive. It's not going to cut you off from your resources and your other support systems. Having that information gives you a lot more options to genuinely look at your life and say, what's happening? How do I need to face what's going on in my own life? What do I need to do? And how do I go about making that happen? It's certainly not the only reason people stay. A lot of it is love and hope.
Yeah.
But it's one of the most important reasons people get stuck. So know your financial information. Jessica's awesome.
Thank you. All right. Well, with that, I think we've covered some good information. Thank you so much, Susan.
Absolutely.
So I will put your information, your contact information here. And thank you so much for watching today.